So I'm going to talk for a second about Merlin, the magician, the wizard, the old man that taught King Arthur, trained him, was responsible for basically the Knights of the Round Table, Camelot, all that stuff. Uh, there's a lot of weirdness and misinformation with Merlin. Merlin's a very complicated figure, like super complicated. Some of what was written about Merlin was true, because Merlin was a real being that walked the earth, that existed. And a lot of what was written about Merlin was just hearsay and a lot of stuff to kind of smudge up what was really said and known at the time. One of the biggest misinterpretations about Merlin was in regards to, like, the things that Merlin spoke of. People call them, like, prophecies, whatever. But the things that Merlin spoke about, most notably, Merlin spoke about... So, there's a story. One of the earliest inclusions of Merlin in the mythology. And I don't like to call it mythology because it's not myth. Like, a lot of this is stuff that actually happened. Just, it's all been garbled and mixed up. Well, so there's a story of King Vortigern. And, there's this king, his name's Vortigern, and he's having this problem because he is building this tower, this castle, right? And Vortigern is just perplexed because every time they get to a certain level on the tower, on the castle, it begins to crumble and fall. Well, he goes to his mystics, to his seers, to his druids, his wizards, whatever you want to call them. And they advise him, they're like, yeah, well, we have a plan, and basically it involves, you need to go find a child, a boy, who had no father, who had no earthly father. Find that boy, we'll kill him, and we'll put his blood in the mortar, and we'll build up the castle, and it'll all be fine. Well, they find a little boy who didn't have a quote-unquote earthly father, because, in so many different versions of Merlin, some people say his father was a demon, it's really complicated. But anyway, they find Merlin, and, he's this little boy who doesn't have a dad, a human father. And so they're about to kill him, and then Merlin's like laughing at him because he's saying, you guys are all idiots. Like, that's not what's going on. Like, you're absolutely idiots. I can tell you what's happening. Basically what's going on is underneath the tower, you have two dragons. And those two dragons woke up and they keep fighting each other. And every time they fight, you're gonna deal with, the foundations crumbling. So, lo and behold, they open up the foundations and they find the two dragons. And there's a whole story about, they end up dispatching the dragons. And I think in the story, like, one of the dragons turns into a pig. It's a crazy story. Anyway, but, like, so people attribute that story, and Merlin went on to say that, like, these dragons would, like, continue to fight each other, and, like, one of the dragons, the red dragon, represented Britain. The original Celts, the original inhabitants of the British Isles. And the other dragon, the white dragon, represented the Saxons, and those that would come from afar and, try to take things over. And there would be that back and forth struggle, but, like, that's not what Merlin was talking about. Like, these dragons weren't human nations. They were these otherworldly forces. I talk about the white dragon all the time. That was the white dragon that Merlin was speaking about. This white dragon that would come and take things over. This white dragon that would come and rule under tyranny. This white dragon that would come and oppress the lands. This is the white dragon that Merlin was speaking about. This is the white dragon that I've been speaking about. This brotherhood, this they go by a lot of names. And it goes all the way up to these Dracos, these reptilians, these dragons, whatever you want to call them. White dragons. That's who they are. That's who they are. And they are an enemy of this world. And they always have been. And they gotta go. That's what Merlin was talking about. And, you can read into it and say, well, the Saxons and the Germans. No. He was talking about these white Dracos. That's what he was speaking of. Anyway. I figured I'd, clear that up. Because nobody ever gets that right. And that's what he was actually talking about. So, yeah. Food for thought. Take it easy, y'all.